Hello, my sweet ones. I'm Miss J, and I'm so glad you're here. Let's take a nice deep breath together. In and out. Let the day melt away. Let your face rest, your cheeks, your forehead, and your ears. Let your arms feel heavy, and your legs feel like sinking logs. Close your eyes if you like, and together we will go on an adventure. Imagine you're walking down a soft forest path, the leaves whispering, and the ground feels cool under your feet. The golden light of evening is peeking through the trees. We're going to visit the sleepy tree tonight. Our old, wise friend. Past the mossy logs, through the curvy trail, until we step into the secret circle where the sleepy tree is waiting. There's a little creek singing nearby, and a cozy fire pit in the center. Let's settle in and listen. Can you hear the fire crackling? Can you hear the water flowing nearby? Our friends Fern and Una have joined us. Fern zooms around the circle 4 times before he can sit with us. 1, 2, 3, 4. His fluffy tail looks like a swirl of bright orange. The sleepy tree is almost smiling tenderly at us. He has been thinking of friendship tonight and wishes to share a tale. Tonight's story is about Phoenix, a curious young bear with cinnamon fur and a heart as wide as the river. Phoenix loved to explore the woods, splash in the creeks, and sit beneath the stars, wondering about the world. She often wondered about things like, why did the moon follow her on her nighttime walks? And did it ever take naps behind the clouds? She wondered why pine cones were so pokey, and if they were secretly hats for squirrels. She puzzled over how honey could taste like golden sunshine. and whether bees ever sang lullabies to their flowers. Phoenix once spent an entire afternoon staring at her own paw prints, wondering if maybe the earth remembered every step she took. She dreamed of one day meeting a talking mushroom, preferably one with a tiny walking stick and spectacles. And she secretly hoped that if she yawned just the right way, the wind might yawn back. Yes, Phoenix had many important bear thoughts. But one thought stayed tucked in her heart more than all the others. What did it truly mean to be a good friend? Now, Phoenix had two very dear friends. Maple, a chatty raccoon with 1,000 ideas a minute, and Bramble, a quiet badger who liked to build things from sticks and stones, mostly forts, sometimes mysterious contraptions that hummed when the wind blew just right. Bramble had been Phoenix's friend for as long as she could remember, way back when they toddled along the forest floor together, eating ants and giggling at butterflies. They used to pretend mushrooms were teacups and dandelions were microphones. Phoenix once tried to ride a turtle, and Bramble insisted it was a noble steed named Sir Hardshell the Brave. Their first fort was just a pile of soggy leaves and a log with a suspicious smell. They called it the secret headquarters of Bear and Badger, and they held official meetings where the main agenda was who could burp louder. Bramble usually won, although Phoenix claimed that she was saving her best for emergencies. They once got into a very serious disagreement about whether beetles made better pets or spies, and they ended up settling it with a wrestling match that ended in giggles and a face full of moss. Yes, Bramble and Phoenix had a friendship stitched together with dirt, laughter, and the kind of secrets only the forest floor could keep. And Maple had just recently arrived in the woods. Her family of raccoons, having relocated after a nearby forest fire, they came in a flurry of striped tails and curious noses, tumbling out of the thicket like they had been poured from a bucket of mischief. Maple was the youngest of 7 and determined to make her mark. She wore a red ribbon around her tail for flair, she said. And she spoke so fast that sometimes even the squirrels had to ask her to slow down. She had big eyes, full of sparkle and ideas that shot out of her mouth like popcorn. Building tree houses with elevators made of vines, opening an acorn cafe with pine cone scones, or teaching the owls how to dance. I'd bet they would be naturals at ballet. She was endlessly fascinated by everything. Moss that looked like tiny forests, clouds shaped like muffins, and the way Bramble's ears twitched when he was thinking. Phoenix was instantly drawn to her energy, like a moth to a lantern, or maybe more like a bear to a buzzing beehive. Because when Maple was sweet, she came with a little sting of chaos. Bramble wasn't so sure at first. Maple talked a lot, moved fast, and had a habit of rearranging his carefully stacked pebbles into modern art. But over time, even Bramble found himself smiling more when she was around, especially when she declared Thursdays official Forest Fancy Hat Day and made everyone wear leaves on their heads. And so the trio was formed. One curious bear, one silent thinker, and one storm of sparkle, all tumbling through the woods, building memories like tree rings, layer by layer. Mabel always wanted Phoenix's full attention. Come with me today. Let's climb the pine trees, or build a raft for the rapids, or dance in the meadow. She'd say all this, barely taking a breath. And Phoenix would laugh and go along, because Maple's excitement was like sunshine, warm and hard to resist. Playing with Bramble was quite different, but not in a bad way. They would observe honeybees working busily about their hives. They would build multi-level fairy houses with shells for doors and wildflower flags. And they had contests for who could find the most delicious and most red berries. Sometimes they would all play together. Maple would talk them into leaf races down the stream, or extreme hide and seek that involved climbing things that no one should reasonably be climbing, including a cranky porcupine's log, and they never made that mistake again. But as the summer went on, Maple's endless energy and persistent pull for Phoenix's attention began to stretch things thin, like too much jam on toast. "Come on, Phoenix," Maple would chirp one morning. "Let's have a dandelion blowing contest from the top of the windy hill. And after that, we'll bake mud pies in the sun. And then we'll invent a new game called Flying Log Jump Surprise. It's very safe, probably." Phoenix, always smiling, always soft-hearted, would nod and follow. Her cinnamon fur would blur behind Maple's bouncing tail, leaving Bramble standing by the stump where they'd planned to finish the secret underground tunnel that they'd been digging for their fairy village. He'd scuff the dirt with one paw, and then sit down with a sigh and pretend that he wasn't disappointed. Bramble didn't say anything at first. He was used to quiet after all. But the silence between them started to grow. And not the cozy, companionable kind that they'd always shared, but the awkward kind. The one that feels like a big, invisible tree growing up between two old friends. One afternoon, Phoenix came to their favorite thinking log by the berry patch and found Bramble stacking pebbles alone. "Want to come help us build a lookout in the tallest fir tree?" she asked, panting slightly from the run there. Bramble didn't look up. He placed a smooth, flat stone gently on top of the pile. "You said we'd finish the tunnel today," he mumbled. "Oh," Phoenix blinked, realizing she'd forgotten. I meant to. Maple had this idea and then it's always Maple's idea," Bramble said. Not meanly, but with a weariness that stung more than shouting ever could. Phoenix didn't know what to say. She scratched her ear. The wind rustled the leaves like they were whispering things she didn't want to hear. "I'm just not as exciting, I guess," Bramble added quietly. And that made Phoenix's chest ache in a way no tumble or scraped paw ever had. She didn't want to hurt either of them, but somehow it felt like trying to hold two balloons in a storm. One always slipped away while she clutched the other. And day by day, Bramble started to disappear. He stopped showing up for their usual muddy footprint painting or inventing pebble puzzles. And one day, Phoenix found Bramble sitting by the creek, poking the ground with a stick. "Hey, Bramble," Phoenix said softly. "I haven't seen you in a bit. Is everything okay?" Bramble shrugged. "You're always off with Maple now," I figured you didn't want to hang out with me anymore. Phoenix's heart dipped like a stone. That's not true. I didn't realize. I didn't mean to make you feel left out. Bramble blinked, a bit surprised. Really? Really? Phoenix nodded. I miss our quiet days too. Phoenix hadn't realized just how much she missed those slow, creative days with Bramble. The kind of days that drifted like clouds, quiet and full of magic. The kind of days when hours go by and you barely notice. You're just living peacefully in every moment. Just then, Bramble tumbled through the bushes, breathless. Her eyes sparkled with excitement. Guys, I have the best idea. Let's build a glider out of leaves, twigs, and moss. We could jump off the log and float all the way down to the creek. Did someone say leaf glider? That's an amazing idea. Fern suddenly tumbled out of a nearby bush, covered in twigs and giggling. Fern, when did you sneak off into that bush? He dusted himself off proudly and wiggled his eyebrows. We could name it the Whirly Leaf Supreme or Crashy McFloatface. Fern, I think we better get back to the story. Phoenix looked from Bramble to Maple. She looked from Maple to Bramble. Two friends, both wonderful, both so different. Maple, Phoenix said gently, I love your ideas, but I think today I'd like to sit by the creek with Bramble for a while. Maybe you'd like to join us? Maple paused, her whiskers twitching. Sit? Just sit? Bramble patted the mossy ground beside him. It's good moss. Maple grinned. Well, okay. But only if I get to tell the story of Captain Nibblewhisker and the Great Acorn Heist. And that's just what they did. They sat, and Maple told a wildly exaggerated tale of a daring chipmunk pirate, and Bramble added a stone fortress at their feet. And Phoenix, well, Phoenix felt something warm in her chest. The kind of warm that comes when two friends, three friends, find their rhythm together. And from that day on, Phoenix learned to listen more. Not just to words, but to feelings. She made time for Maple's wild adventures and Bramble's quiet ideas. And she remembered to leave space for her own heart, too. Because true friendship, she realized, isn't about shrinking or stretching to fit. It's about making room for everyone to shine, including yourself. And as we sit here beneath the sleepy tree, maybe we can think of our own friendships. Can you think of someone who might need a little more time with you? Or maybe someone who always makes you laugh? Let's take a deep breath in and out. Feel the soft moss beneath us. Hear the creek nearby. The fire has gone out, and Fern is so cozy and warm, sleeping on my lap. The stars are peeking out now, and the sleepy tree sways just slightly, as if it's smiling too. Thank you for being here with me tonight. I'll be right here under the sleepy tree, waiting for next time. Sleep well, my darling ones. Good night.